Hi, I'm Tim, the cheap 3D printer. Being cheap means that when something in our house needs to be repaired or replaced, fixed in some way, means that instead of going out and buying it, I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to see if I can print it. I'm going to see if I can design it. I'm going to see what I can do to fix it without having to go buy it, because I can 3D print things cheaper than what I can buy them typically. So, for the last 6 years we've lived in this house, and for probably 5.5 of those years, our sliding glass door handle, the outside handle, has been cracked and has gradually been breaking more and more. And so that's what this is. Here you can see that it's cracked here. The sun out here in Arizona destroys plastic fairly quickly. And so I decided it was time to replace this item, and instead of going and buying it, I decided I was going to get on Fusion 360. I was going to design a replacement for it and print it. So that's what I did. So I busted out my trusty calipers. I bought these at Harbor Freight, dirt cheap. I think I paid like $4 for this pair of calipers. They're really cheap, but they work, and they work well. So pulled out my calipers and began to make some measurements. And the first measurement that I made was the length of this. And so put my calipers on here and realized my calipers don't go that far. So I saw that my calipers go to 154.4 millimeters. I guessed it was about 160 millimeters, so that's what I wrote down, 160 millimeters. Then kept measuring across here, and I got 18.5 millimeters. Across the width, I guess, 18.5 millimeters, and the depth of 25 millimeters. 25 millimeters. Then I measured this piece right here across this, and it's broken a little bit, but I came up with 31, roughly 31 millimeters on there. So across this, I actually think it was a little bit bigger than that, but that's the number that I went with, 31 millimeters. And and I had to measure this depth right here also. So I measured that one, and I came up with 10 millimeters on that one. So then I went to Fusion 360, and let's go to Fusion 360 and let's see what we did in Fusion 360. So here's the sketch that we came up with in Fusion 360. What I did on Fusion 360 was I started out by just doing half. So you'll see all these measurements are half. Now, what I found out is that the thing was not actually 160 millimeters, it was actually 159 millimeters. And the way I came up with that was measuring the distance. Oh, that's the other distance I forgot to measure. Was the distance here from the edge to the screw hole. And that measured out to 29.5. And so 29.5, and then I measured from hole to hole and came up with the fact that this was actually 159 millimeters long. So I did half of the sketch. I did this length here, 79.5. Length here, 18.5. The width here, I can't see it here, it's 23.5 across. Oh, I forgot to measure that one, 23.5 across there. And then I did half of the 31, came up with 15.5, and then I just connected this line to this line. That was all using the line feature here in the sketches, going to line, and then using the D button to dimension it. So you hit D and dimension those lines. Then after I developed half of it, I went up here to Sketch, clicked Mirror, clicked on all the dimensions or all the lines that I wanted to mirror, and where I wanted to mirror it, which was right across this axis right here, and it put the other side there for me. So So that's how I came up with this sketch. So then after I did the sketch, I simply started to extrude it, and oops, let's hit stop sketch here, and started to extrude it. There's the 10 millimeters, and then bringing the rest of this up to the 25. This was the holes down here. And then just to make it look nicer rather than being so blocky, I started putting some fillets in and made it look a little bit nicer. So this was the final sketch that I came up with. And I'm usually pretty bad about having an initial sketch being the final sketch, or the initial print being the final print. Normally I have to do a couple prints, a couple iterations before I get the right one. But this one worked out just fine. And so here is the final print that I came up with. This is what printed out. I printed this pretty fast. I usually only print at 60 millimeters a second. This time I printed at 80 millimeters a second. I did 0.3 layer heights. I did 50% infill. As I said, the sun around here really just kills plastic, so I thought maybe more infill would help with the plastic becoming brittle. So I did 50% infill, and it came out absolutely wonderful. There is, on this particular one, there is some extrusion issues on this, but it works just fine. And here's the holes here. I could have reprinted this and fixed the extrusion issues, maybe bumped up the temperature just a little bit since I was printing at a faster speed and at 0.3 layer heights. But this one turned out just great. So here's the original. Here is the new model. And as you can see, it's not exactly the same. I didn't do these angles here. I didn't feel like it was necessary. I didn't do this little circle thing in here because it wasn't necessary. Instead of doing the inserts, the metal inserts, I just made holes. They work just fine. I'll show you a picture here of it installed. And that's it installed on the door. And it works great. And my family is happy because they're no longer getting their fingers into this crack. And it doesn't look cruddy. It looks nice out there. So I just want to encourage you to, if you've got a 3D printer, or you're looking into 3D printing, I want to encourage you to get out, download Fusion 360, get a pair of calipers. As I said, I bought these from Harbor Freight for like $4. They're not expensive. You can also buy a little bit better calipers. I have a better set of calipers that I purchased on Amazon. I only paid $10 for these. These have an extra decimal point, which I wanted to do to be able to measure my filaments better. I only paid $10 for these. They're metal. This one actually has I don't know what they call this, but it measures depth measurement. These were only $10 on Amazon. I'll put a link below. I don't know if they're still $10. They may have been on sale, but get yourself a pair of calipers. Download Fusion 360. It's free for regular hobbyists, and start fixing your own stuff. I've already done a couple other things. We have some IKEA furniture that the bottom kept dropping out, so I developed a piece that would slide in that would hold the bottom in better. On one of my son's pieces of IKEA furniture, one of the wheels on the drawer slides broke off. I printed off a new wheel and screwed it in. You can fix a lot of things, and you can do it cheaply. Instead of going to the store and buying it, you can do it cheaply right on your computer and your printer. And then you get the pride of knowing that you did it. You printed it, you designed it, you fixed it all on your own. That's all I got for you today. I hope you'll keep printing, and keep printing cheap.